On 17th of September 2021, India got its 70th Grandmaster Rithvik Raja from Hyderabad in Telangana. He becomes the second Grandmaster from the state after Arjun Erigesi, and the boy is just 17 years old. He's born in 2004 and amazing talent, very hardworking, very down to earth boy. Just want to show you a few pictures of Rithvik. This is him, who is a GM now. And some things about him: he scored his first GM norm when he was just 15 years old at the Bregat Open. So you can see here he beat some very strong players like Narciso Dublan, Sosa Thomas, and if you see his results in this tournament, unbeaten. This is the thing about him that I have seen. He's very, very solid. He hardly, he positionally very strong, does not lose his games easily. At the same time, he's also afraid to take risks sometimes. That affects him, but he has fixed this. And that's the reason why in 2021, he was able to make two back-to-back GM norms. The second one happened at the Skalica Chess Festival, where he played tremendous chess. And also in the last round, he managed to beat Valentina Gunina. If you see here, that's Gunina there. And Gunina is one of the strong players, and we are going to see that game in a must-win situation. Rithvik delivered and scored his second GM norm. The third GM norm came in September at the First Saturday tournament in Hungary. That's the famous Mr. First Saturday, Nagy Laszlo. And here, Rithvik once again unbeaten with 7 points out of 9, 5 wins, 4 draws. And then in the Vezerkebzo GM tournament in Hungary, he reached 2500 ELO and became a Grandmaster. Here are a few achievements of Rithvik. He became the under 17 champion in the year 2017. So he was just 13 years old and he became the under 17 national champion. He also became the under 13 champion that year. Later on, he also became the under 15 national champion. So he has a lot of national titles to his credit. That's his mother, Deepika, who has been there by his side always, traveling with him to various tournaments. That is his family, Rithvik there with his parents and his sister. His sister's name is Harika, famous Grandmaster also from India, has the similar name. And Rithvik has worked with coach Ramaraju, who is also Harika's coach, very well-known trainer at the top, and Alexander Golaschopov from Ukraine, who has helped to create many Grandmasters in the country. So these are the people, and here's a very nice picture of Rithvik, young boy who has just learned to play chess. Maybe he's like, what, 3.5 or 4 years old there. Okay, so let's have a look at the first game. This is Rithvik versus Valentina Gunina. And this game also shows Rithvik's ability to play under pressure, which is something that the boy has developed. Must-win game at the Skalica Open last round. Gunina opens with d4. Rithvik plays knight f6, c4, e6. True to his style, he likes to play solid chess. So classical openings, Catalan on the board, d takes c4, open Catalan, bishop g2, c6. Another thing that I have seen about Rithvik is that he's very well prepared in the openings. If I remember correctly, he played at the Super Juniors Cup as well and was very well booked up. Castles, and now clinging on to the pawn b5. The cost that you pay for keeping that extra pawn is that you are not very well developed. a4, bishop to b7, knight to e5. So now the threat is to take on b5 and then the bishop on b7 would be hanging. So Rithvik goes a6 in the position, keeps it solid. And a typical move here for white, just try to think what should white do. It's a very typical idea in the Catalan, and if you think here, you will be able to play like that in your games as well. Yeah, the move is b3. Now, the point is that although these pawns are doubled, playing b3 makes a lot of sense, because after takes, your queen is well placed, your knight can come out, your bishop can go to b2, and overall you have a very strong center that you can build with e4. Now, Rithvik here thought for quite some time actually. He thought for nearly 4 minutes, and he took the pawn on d4. This is still theory. He's attacking the knight and also the rook. Bishop b2 makes a lot of sense. Queen b4. Now, black is 2 pawns up, but white is very well developed, and it makes sense to keep the queens on the board. Queen c5 once again offering a queen trade. Queen d3 keeping the queens. Bishop e7 trying to finish development and castle. Knight bd2 castles. Knight to e4 was played here. Maybe you could take on e4 already, but after bishop e4, it seems like with this all these pieces angling towards the king, it is dangerous. But after h6, white has to prove his compensation. I mean, it's not so simple. Although after something like this, it does look very, very scary as white, as black, to defend here. So Rithvik said, let me go queen b6 back. And Gunina, who's a very strong player and has won many, I think she was one of the top 5 players in the world of women's chess. She went knight g5. And now, if let's say it's white to move, white will just go knight g4 and then threaten to take on f6, and queen h7 is mate. So Rithvik has to be careful. He goes for the move h6. He asks Gunina, what do you want to do? Here, knight d7 is not possible, because after knight b d7, you are reinforcing the defense on f6 with your knight. So there is no mate on h7. White took on f7. The game starts to heat up now. Rook takes. Of course, if you take back here, then after king f7, black has no issues. Black is better. But Gunina's idea was queen to g6. Now the rook is hanging, so you have to save it. Rook f8. And there came the move knight g4. So you don't want to take the knight because there is a mate on g7. And if you don't take, then I am threatening knight h6 here. So time for you to think a bit. What should black play in this position? Not an easy position. You have to think. This is where Rithvik is very good at defense, at finding the only moves. The threat is in this position, if let's say it's white to move, then white would just take on f6 here, bishop f6, and then after knight h6. So let's say here it's white to move. He would take, check, king here, and mate. There's no way to stop queen h7 mate. So taking this line into consideration, Rithvik found the move c5. Very nice move, because in the end, this bishop e4 idea will not work because the bishop will be controlling that square. Okay, takes, king here. And now Gunina, well, I think it's very natural to be ambitious here as white, because it looks like a dangerous attack. She went e4. On one hand, e4 does make sense, because after g takes h6, queen h6, king g8, check, king here. A move like there are many ways, but maybe a move like even g4 is very strong, with the idea of g5 and also rook a3 to h3. So this does not work, but there is a defense. Instead of this, knight f7 check makes a lot of sense. You can go king g8, but then after knight g5, it seems like the position is already very bad for white, for black, sorry. So that's why take, bishop g2, and now it's there are many captures. But let's say if king g2, that is knight c6, and black is doing fine. If queen e7 here, then knight c6, queen f7, bishop f1, bishop f6, and then it's a draw with perpetual check. The last variation is bishop takes f6 here. You take back, queen h5, check, and once again it's a draw, queen h5. So there were draws here, but I think it helped that Gunina was very ambitious and she played the move e4. Now here a very good move for black has to be found. Black to move, what do you play? Rithvik was not able to find it. He played the move queen d8, but that turned out to be not the best. The right move here is knight c6, and the neat point is that after e5, which is what white wants to do, you take it. Bishop takes, and you take on g2, king takes g2, check on c6. This is an important maneuver. King goes back, and now key move. What does black do? Yes, queen e8, and there is no knight f7 check in the position. And let's say if you have to go queen g5, then after something like b4, so already better for black. Black has managed to defend and is pawn up, king is safe and winning. So knight c6 would have been a good defense here, but went queen d8. Now here knight f7, good move. Take, queen takes, and once again Rithvik here went knight c6. I think queen e8 was also possible, and after queen takes e6 you play queen d7. If queen f7, I guess you have to offer a draw, perhaps. Maybe both players were not interested in draws. So knight c6 was played, and now bishop f6 by Gunina. I think ab5 could have been in general useful for white, because then at the end, okay, you can't take with the bishop, b7 is hanging, so you take with the pawn, let's say here, and e5. And I feel that white has very good chances here in the position, because okay, here maybe bishop f6 is possible because a1 is hanging, and if you take on a8, then this is hanging. There is queen b7, rook a1, queen c6, rook f1, and bishop f1, and yeah, this should be drawish in nature, but white is pushing. So ab5 was better. She took here, and now Rithvik took back with the pawn. Bishop takes f6. Here e5 is a strong move, and now next move I'll take on b7, because if I took directly on b7, then knight a5 followed by bishop a1 would come in. So first I'll play e5, deflect. Let's say if you take bishop e5, now I will take on b7. Now you can't play this because queen a8, the bishop has opened up. So there are all these complicated lines, and Rithvik rightly took with the pawn. Queen e6 was played. I think here Gunina had to once again go for e5 when the position is very, very complicated. You really don't want to take with the f pawn, because after bishop e4 it leads to a deadly attack. But then Rithvik had to find queen e8 here, queen e6, and so on. The game would go on. So e5 was best. She took on e6, and now black to play. What do you do here? Once again Rithvik finds excellent defensive move. So if you look at the position carefully, you will see that black has two pieces for a rook. So in a way, black is material up, but white has one extra pawn. Also, the king is weak, but that extra pawn doesn't matter because black is going to get two passers on the queen side. All you have to do is beat out the attack, and queen c8 was the move. Beautifully found by Rithvik. I really liked it. Queen a2, and now here, once the queen has moved back, I think b4 would have been pretty strong with two passers, but even knight d4 is also okay. AB, queen f7, and offering a queen trade with queen f8. I think here, if you take, and queen h5, I believe the game is around equal, well balanced, but she decided to play queen g6 here. b4, And now e5 in the position, take on g2, king g2, and fe5. Rithvik could have also played f5 here, but he took. And now check, king g8, king g7 would be met with queen e5 check, and so that's the reason why he played here. Queen, and now came the mistake in the game which led to Rithvik winning. The right move here and the only move to draw is queen g6. Now you can't interpose with the queen because the rook on a8 is hanging, so king h8 check, king here check, it's a draw. But the moment she played queen g4, Rithvik was like, I have got my chance and black to play. What do you play here? King f7, good move. Rook ae1, now bishop f6, safeguarding the pawn, check, king g8. And this next phase was nicely done. King h8 first, bring the rook in. Here, queen d8, rook takes c5. Sorry, she could have played queen d8, but he played e4, keeping the position closed. Rook c1, queen g8, take on e4, rook d8, b3, push the pawn, rook f4, trying to mate, queen d5, check. And now you don't really want to take, because if you take king g8, this is a draw after queen g5. It's a perpetual, rook queen e7, check on h file, and it's a draw. So you play king h8. So basically you don't take this rook. What you do is after this you play king g7, good move, queen g4, king f8, queen g6. It looks scary, but after check, very strong move by Rithvik, because if you take on e2, I have queen and I'm winning. So king f2, if you go king f1, it's a mate in one. How? Queen f3 mate. So king f2, bishop d4 check, rook d4. If you take on e2, there is queen g2, king d3, b1 queen, rook b1, queen f3. It's going to be a mate very soon. Queen e2, king here, rook b8 check, and it's over. It's a very black is the one who's going to reach first. Rook a8, king b3, and queen a2 mate. So bishop d4 went to rook d4, queen d4, king f3, check, king g4, and now queen g7. The queens are traded because of the pin, and Rithvik won. Now imagine this game played under tremendous pressure of a must-win situation and scoring your second GM norm. That is already very commendable. I asked Rithvik to send one more of his nice game, and he did send me this. This was played in July 2021. It was a round robin event, and this time his opponent was Stefan Tadic, who is a young player. Yeah. So here, Rithvik once again black against Stefan. Just let's go through this game. E4, E5. It gives you an idea of Rithvik's playing style. Also, I have a few questions for you. Knight C3, Knight F6, Bishop B5. He went Knight D4. Now, this 4 knights, if you take on E5, the good move here for black is try to pause the video and think. See, if you take here, this is not going to be good enough, because after you can't play queen e7, this is hanging. And if you play like a6, knight c3, queen e7, then I have d4, and already white is doing very well. So the right way is to, when you take on e5, to play queen e7. f4 is possible. By the way, if you go back, then of course knight e4 is one move, but knight b5 is better. Take, and queen e4, and black is doing very well. So f4. Now take and play d6, defending this pawn and winning the e4 pawn. Okay, so castles, take on b5, take here, c6, knight goes back, d6, So in return for getting the bishop pair, white gets space here. He gave up his bishop pair but got some space. Rithvik very nicely controls this pawn on e5, doesn't exchange it prematurely. These are the types of position he's very good at. Bishop e7, castles, rook e1, a5, gaining space on the queen side, h6. Now white could have kept the bishops in the position, but he decided to exchange on f6, bishop f6, d5. You mustn't take. If you take here, then the knight sits very solidly on d5. So played bishop e7, queen d3, and now black starts to create play with f5. Now often you worry that after takes, opponent will get the e4 square, but here it doesn't work out so well because the center is not very solid, and that's the reason why after bishop g6, maybe a move like queen d7, queen f5, or cd5 at the right time, or rook f4 coming in, black has excellent play. Knight d2, king h8, queen c4, and now a good move, queen b6. White tries to exchange the queens, but now again a good move by Rithvik. Black to play. What do you do? You can take on b3, but the good move here is queen b4, which was played by Rithvik. It keeps the pressure on the position. If you take here, I'll take back with the pawn. If you don't, my queen is also looking at e4 pawn. It is well placed there. He took ab, knight d1 was played. I think knight a2 is also possible. cd, ed, rook a4, b3, and knight b4. Rook b5, the position is slightly better for black. Knight d1 was not a good move. Rithvik now played fe4, but a better choice would have been cd, ed, and now b5, a5, bishop b7, and it seems like black has a very, very solid edge here. But take on e4, knight e3 was played, and now black to move. What do you do? Black to play. Rithvik made use of the entire board, and here he activated his rook on the 5th rank, threatening the pawn, rook e d1, and here black to move. What do you do? I think if you take with the pawn, the idea was knight b3, attacking the rook, and then picking up this pawn on d5, and white still has control. So Rithvik here sacked an exchange with rook d5. Very good move. And now he has this central mass of pawns. And I think this is what makes this game very special. Played very well. a5. Here a very surprising move, yeah, for white, for black is d4. Because generally you don't want to give up the pawns like bishop f5, maybe f3, you have d5. Your pawns are rolling. Bishop could come to c5, e4 can be an idea. So d4 was a good move. Rithvik played bishop h4, g3, bishop d8, king g2, king h7, rook e1, bishop c7, rook e3, and now the power of bishops is shown. Bishop c6, rook a8 takes here, and Rithvik is quite okay to exchange because then the d2 knight would hang. So went rook e1, rook a2. And look at these pawns. They just completely make the knight on d2 paralyzed. Bishop a5, c3, b6, d4, take on b2. And yeah, these pawns are very strong. Bishop f3, threatening e2. Can't do much about it. Threatening also rook g2, by the way. So takes rook b1, e4, and rook c1. And here Stefan Tadic resigned and Rithvik had scored another win. So these were a couple of games of Rithvik. Also, I hope you got to know about India's 70th Grandmaster. Very young boy, just 17 years of age and very talented. I hope he continues progressing, because 2004 born and becoming a GM at the age of 17 is a wonderful feat. And there are many more youngsters coming up. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Congratulations, Rithvik and his family and his coaches and team once again. Bye-bye.